Welcome to our V-Ray 5 for Rhino webinar. I'm Sean Stanger, and I'm joined by our V-Ray for Rhino product manager, Konstantin Gitazev. Today, we will show you some useful tips for your workflow with V-Ray and Rhino. Today's agenda is split into 5 separate topics, starting with V-Ray Vision, Chaos Cosmos, V-Ray LightGen, Grasshopper, and last but not least, Cloud Batch Rendering. By watching this webinar, you'll discover tips and tricks that will help you take advantage of the capabilities of V-Ray 5 for Rhino. Ready? Let's begin. V-Ray Vision is Chaos's real-time rasterized viewer, and it comes with V-Ray 5 for Rhino. With it, you can explore your scenes on the go, create quick previews and animations, and much more. Now we will explore some of the possibilities that Vision gives us. Let's start by setting up a generic gray material for an override and turn V-Ray Vision on. Now that our scene is loaded into Vision, we can see that everything is shaded with our basic gray material. If we move our scene in Rhino, everything updates accordingly in Vision. We can orbit our model, pan and zoom, and switch through different views. If we tweak the exposure value in the camera rollout in V-Ray's render settings, the exposure in Vision will update as well. If we can't get the exposure quite right, V-Ray can do the job for us. Simply click on the little sun icon in Vision to turn on auto exposure, and you will always get a perfectly exposed image. Now, let's turn override off so we can see our actual shaders. Vision will take a moment to load all the shaders. A big strength of Vision is that we can edit our model and see changes rendered in real time. Let's open Chaos Cosmos and place some assets in the scene. Go through the categories in Cosmos Browser and find Vegetation. Then import an object with the Import button and close the browser. As you can see, the tree appears immediately in Vision. Now we can move them in Rhino, rotate them, scale them, and see how they look rendered out. This makes it really fast to set and tweak our environment. I've already prepared some vegetation and assets for this scene, so I will delete this tree and unhide what I've set up in advance. Now, we can continue exploring. Let's move over to Vision and see what we can tweak directly. Click on the gear wheel icon and we'll see the first set of options. This will determine the quality of our image and adjust the performance. Every Cosmos asset has levels of detail stored in it, also known as LODs. There is a basic version of each Cosmos asset, a medium detailed version, and a realistic version, and they can help us have a more interactive experience. Next, we can adjust shadow quality, which will determine the level of detail when calculating shadows. If we choose low quality shadows, Vision uses a lower filtering setting for the shadows, and the shadow map is downscaled while we interact with our project, giving us better responsiveness. Medium shadow quality uses better filtering, but still has some optimizations. The high setting gives us the best filtering setting for shadows, and it can also simulate soft shadows by taking into account the sun size parameter. Last but not least, check High Quality Cosmos Assets. To see the difference that this makes, we need to reset the live link between Rhino and Vision. When high-quality Cosmos assets are switched off, Vision will use the medium LOD for every asset that is close to the viewer and replace the assets that are further away with the lowest LOD. This way, we have a more responsive experience. When we turn high-quality Cosmos assets on, every Cosmos asset will be represented by its highest LOD. Just click on the Render button in the Asset Editor to break the link and click on Vision's icon from the toolbar to sync things again. Check out the leaves on the trees. Ones that are closer to the camera have a lot more detail now, and they look much nicer. Next are exposure controls, which we can adjust separately from V-Ray's EV if we want to quickly explore some different scenarios. After that are the navigation controls. We can orbit, pan, and zoom, but Vision comes with one additional option: Fly Mode. Enable this by ticking the checkbox or using the Tab key on your keyboard. Then adjust the speed controls so that we move slowly through our scene. Now we can move around our scene and explore the space from different angles, just like in a game, with the difference that we can fly up and down. Okay, let's hit C to reset the camera position. This returns vision to the initial camera. On the right, we have color corrections, which gives us the option to use sRGB color space. And if we want, we can apply an ACES curve for a more contrasting look out of the box, and also adjust exposure, contrast, saturation, and more on the go. When we are happy with the adjustments, we can always export them for later use when we reopen the scene or share it with other people. The last icon is where save and export settings are. Let's open them and see what we have. To save a shot from Vision, first we need to select a folder and a name for the image. After that, we can choose the image format. For this case, the default PNG works great. The next option is whether we want to save exactly what we see from the Vision window, or if we would like to use the project's resolution, which is set in V-Ray's render settings. For this one, I will use the default option from Vision window. If we need to export a larger image, we can simply dial in scale for our render. Now all we need to do is click Export, and the image is saved. Still images have their use, but sometimes we need to create whole animations. Vision can help us with this, and it's quick and easy. To set this up, let's break the live link between Rhino and Vision again. In V-Ray's render settings, enable animation. This was set up with the default Rhino tools in advance. Now when we start Vision, we can see there is a timeline on the bottom of the window. Before we click on the preview, I want to show one very important setting that I intentionally omitted because it's more visible when it comes to animations: temporal anti-aliasing. I will disable it for now and start the animation. Notice that all the edges are jagged, especially those on the facade panels. If we enable temporal anti-aliasing and play the preview again, the animation is a lot smoother. This is because this setting enables a higher quality anti-aliasing method. Now we can stop the preview and find out how to save it. The export process is almost the same as saving a still image. We need to choose a folder and a name for the sequence. I will also change the resolution mode to From Project and dial back the resolution multiplier to 1 since we don't need it in this case. Then, make sure to check the Export Animation option. Also, if temporal anti-aliasing is re-enabled, we can use the frame delay option. Increase the number to something like 30 up to 60 to ensure each animation frame is sampled enough. In my case, I'm using the animation as a preview, so I will leave it as it is. Now click Export and leave Vision to do the rest. V-Ray Vision is supported in Grasshopper as well as Rhino. To take advantage of the real-time capabilities of V-Ray Vision, we need to use the same nodes that we use to initiate any type of rendering. The renderer node is the output, and preceding nodes are VGeo, to connect all necessary geometry and rig sun if we want to use the sun and sky system. Let's create the Vision node from the V-Ray tab and connect it to the renderer one. Next, start it from the context menu. Now we have a live link to our Grasshopper definition. We can easily navigate from the Vision window or use and link the camera node for further adjustments and possibilities such as exposure value or a predefined camera path. As you know, we can easily control the sun position in the Vision window, holding down the Shift key and moving the cursor up, down, and right, left. Keep in mind that this position will reset every time you start Vision, which is why it's better to control the sun position manually. To control Live Link updates, we can use two options from the Live Link button: Sync Camera or Sun separately. If we want to stop the Live Link, you don't need to delete or unlink the Live Link node from Renderer. You can just turn off or disable the node. This way, you unsync and stop every update from the definition. You can use every material node from the V-Ray tab. See how easy it is to change the color. And instead of a color, let's use a V-Ray material from our Rhino project. If you want to use the preset node, you can select the appropriate preset for the geometry. Let's assign V-Ray material from the project again. Note that in this material, a stochastic tiling map is used to avoid texture repetition. The graph mapper is used to determine the falloff and transition between the open and closed panel state. Let's alter the curve and tweak it a bit. I also want to change the panel count and height. The V-Ray timeline is used for a simple animation setup. The position of the opening is rotated around a central axis. Geometry animation playback is still not fully supported in Vision. You can preview the animation, but exporting it as a rendered sequence or a video is not possible at the moment. Camera animation, on the other hand, is fully supported. Check out how it works. Now we can control our position from here. To use this camera path in animation, all we need to do is link the timeline to the renderer node so V-Ray will know which timeline is used for animation. Okay, let's send the animation into our Rhino project in order to set the animation source. Create a Render in Project node and link it to the renderer one. From the context menu, we have two options, to export camera or sun animation. For now, let's export camera animation. After this process is done, stop V-Ray Vision and open the V-Ray Asset Editor. From the Settings tab, enable animation functionality and change the source to Grasshopper. Let's restart V-Ray Vision. As you can see, the animation that is rendered with V-Ray Vision and controlled from Grasshopper is ready to play or export. This approach was shown earlier using the Export button in Vision. Let's look at Cosmos assets and ways to manage them. With V-Ray 5, there is a quick and easy way to take your scenes to the next level. Chaos Cosmos is an extensive library of ready-to-use assets to populate your scenes in just a few clicks. Let's open the Chaos Cosmos browser. You will notice that there are a lot of assets, separated into different categories and subcategories. If we open one, we can see more information for that particular model, and if we click Download, the model will be stored on our machine. For a faster experience, we can just download models from the thumbnails. Let's download a few plants for our exterior. Just click Download, and when it is complete, importing the asset is just a click away and ready to be placed wherever you like. We'll add more plants, cars, and people and switch to our main camera to see the result. Since every asset in Chaos Cosmos is designed for V-Ray, they are ready to render right out of the box. When we are done arranging our scene, all we need to do is click Render to get a stunning image and effortlessly build an entire environment. Another thing I would like to mention is that Chaos Cosmos is constantly growing with more and more free assets. Even if commercial assets appear in the browser at some point, the set of free items will be available and expand. Now that the scene is done, we can prepare the project to be shared with colleagues or rendered on a farm. Notice that when we download assets from Cosmos, they are stored in our local machine. In order to avoid missing assets on other machines or network rendering, we will need to do a few additional steps. If we want to render our project on a network render farm, we need to pack all of the Cosmos assets with the project. But if we want to share it with colleagues, there's another option to be sure that everything renders as it does on our local machine. Let's navigate to the V-Ray drop-down menu, and from there choose Pack Project. You will notice that Rhino will prompt us to save the project before the archive. So after saving, we can archive it. You just need to choose a location on our machine or on a server. Now we need to decide if we want to pack the Cosmos assets into the archive in case someone will use it without internet connection, or if it will be rendered on a network farm. If we just want to share it with a colleague, click No. When we open the archive file on a different machine, you may notice that the Cosmos assets are missing, like the trees to the right of the scene, which appear in the viewport but do not appear when we render them. This is because V-Ray can't find those assets on this computer. To remedy this, all we need to do is download them. The easiest way to do this is to use the Geometry tab in the V-Ray's Asset Editor. There we have all of our Cosmos assets listed. When you take a look, there is a small icon to the right side of each missing asset that says Download. Click this icon and a download will start. We can do this for each asset or just select the assets you want. In this case, I will select everything, then click Write, and again, select Download. Now, we just have to wait while Chaos Cosmos downloads everything, and we are ready to render our project. Let's stop the render for a minute. If we take a closer look at the Cosmos assets, you will notice that there are not many ways to modify them, only the preview type and the option to override it. But in some cases, we may want to change the material of the objects. To do that, we just need to select the asset and right-click to choose Merge, or hit the Merge button from the right side option panel while selecting the asset. Now the Cosmos asset will be converted to a V-Ray proxy, and all the materials applied to it will be accessible so we can modify or replace them. Now let's take a look at V-Ray LightGen. When we are working on our images, iterating through a few different lighting scenarios can help us find one that complements our model the most. But this can be a very time-consuming process that could be made a lot easier with a little inspiration. With V-Ray 5's LightGen, you can let V-Ray create multiple lighting scenarios, freeing up time for you to focus on artistic decisions instead of moving the sun around the scene or rotating the HDRI. This approach is also very accessible for anyone starting out with 3D rendering, as it does a lot of the technical setup for you. First, click on the LightGen icon in V-Ray's toolbar. We get two options for the space we want to light: exterior or interior. Then we need to choose our lighting method, sun and sky source, or an HDRI. We will explore both, so first let's pick sun and sky. All we need to do now is select how many variations in terms of the vertical and horizontal position of the sun we want V-Ray to create, and click Generate. V-Ray will calculate the different lighting scenarios for our view and then give us a list of thumbnails to choose from. Now, simply click on the thumbnail you like and V-Ray will load the sun position into our scene, as you can see in the interactive render. If we are happy with the generated scenarios, we can save the whole set. Click on the Save button, pick a folder and a name for our set so that we keep things organized. Now, we can move on to our other option for light source, HDRI lighting. While the sunlight has its own benefits such as more control over the shadows and reflections and animation, the HDRI is an image-based lighting system, which means that the light will be calculated based on the HDR image that we are using. This introduces clouds and colors, and it can shape a lot of moods based on a real-life scenario. Click Reset, switch the light source to HDRI, and we are presented with a similar menu to the sun and sky option. Again, we can pick how many variants we want based on the different HDRIs and their rotation. But before I click Generate, let me show you that just as we saved a light set, we can load one to save time. I've pre-calculated a light set with HDRIs beforehand, and with the Load button, I can simply select it and click Open. Loading a scenario into our scene is just like generating sun and sky. Simply click on the desired look and V-Ray will do the rest for you. If there is one you like, just click it, and V-Ray will automatically create a dome light with the right texture and texture placement, and you can go straight to rendering your image. If you have a library of your favorite HDRIs and love to use them, you can generate light scenarios with them. You just need to click on the Custom HDR set and click on the folder icon to the right. Then we need to select the folder with the HDRIs. You will notice that the maximum unique style is the same number of the HDRIs in the folder. We can also adjust the number of variations and then generate. Once they are generated, we can pick styles in the same ways as we did previously and utilize our favorite HDRs, producing a lot of different light scenarios automatically. Last but not least, we will talk about cloud batch rendering. When we have a big project on our hands, usually this means rendering out a lot of images. One easy and fast way to approach this is by taking advantage of the new option to render multiple views simultaneously on Chaos Cloud. We'll show you how we can prepare our project for cloud batch rendering using Chaos Cloud in a few easy steps. As you can see, we have a few named views and we want to render all of them simultaneously. Now let's adjust the render settings for this batch. From V-Ray's Asset Editor, let's go to the Settings tab and make sure we are not in interactive mode. The rest of the settings are up to you and your project's needs. I will be using a high preset, and because I want to show you a little trick with Chaos Cloud, I will leave the progressive rendering on. Now that we've set render settings, we can send our batch to Chaos Cloud for rendering. Let's open the Batch Rendering menu. Here we need to load the project or projects we want to render. In our case, since we want to render images only from that project, we can just right-click on the batch window where we have the option to add the current project. As you can see, all of the views in that project are loaded in the list. I will select all of them and disable them. Then I will select only the views I would like to be rendered on the cloud. To finish, we need to click on the Cloud button. Now, Rhino will ask if we want to save our project. I have already done that, so I will choose No. Now V-Ray will export all of the views and send them to the cloud. Chaos Cloud will open in our web browser, and from here we can create separate projects for our renders or add to an existing one and rename our views if we haven't already. Because I used progressive rendering, I can do some more adjustments and set a credit limit for each job and still get a usable image. That way, Chaos Cloud will stop rendering when a job has reached the specified credit limit instead of when the noise threshold is met, so we can generate quick and cheap preview renders for our views. Now that everything is set, all we have to do is click Submit and Chaos Cloud will do the rest. We can also easily check in on our render's progress, even from our cell phone. Once the renders reach the credit limit, the renders will be paused. Thus, we can render a lot of images while we are working on our local machine and be more efficient. If you have an RTX graphics card, you can take advantage of Chaos Vantage. This new real-time product allows you to explore your projects in real time with higher quality compared to V-Ray Vision. In order to use it, we just need to export a VR scene file from Rhino and drag and drop into Vantage. Then we can start exploring. To explain the difference between Vision and Vantage, Vision is a rasterizer based on a game engine and designed to be used as a real-time scene viewer. It can also output final images or animations when the quality is sufficient for project presentation. Chaos Vantage, on the other hand, is a real-time ray tracer, which makes it a lot more powerful and accurate in regards to lighting quality, reflections, refractions, and other complex effects. Heavy models with high polygon counts are not a problem with Vantage. Note that Vantage requires an NVIDIA RTX graphics card, while Vision runs on most graphics hardware on the market, including NVIDIA and AMD. A common design shared between Vision and Vantage is that they visualize standard V-Ray lights, materials, and other effects. There is no need for you to modify your scene in order to use either of them.